This weekend's Mexican Grand Prix at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez stands out as one of Formula One's most unusual races, presenting teams with challenges they won't encounter at any other venue on the calendar. Located 2,200 meters above sea level, the circuit holds the distinction of being the highest track in Formula One, and this elevation brings a unique set of engineering problems that teams must overcome to compete effectively. Racing at this elevation means dealing with air that's roughly 20 to 25% thinner compared to sea level conditions. This reduced air density impacts virtually every aspect of car performance, from the aerodynamic systems to the power units to the braking systems, forcing teams to completely rethink their approach to setup. The most significant issue revolves around downforce, which gets generated when air passes over the wings and beneath the floor, pressing the car onto the circuit surface to provide grip. With 25% less air in Mexico, there's simply less available to create that pressing force. It's similar to the difference between swimming in deep water, where you have plenty to push against, versus shallow water, where there's less resistance. To compensate for the thin air, teams fit the largest wing angles possible, essentially angling the front and rear wings more aggressively to capture whatever thin air is available, much like the setup used at Monaco, which demands the highest downforce configuration on the calendar. However, even with these maximum wing settings, the cars still generate less grip than they would at regular circuits with smaller wings, because there's no way to fully compensate for that 25% reduction in air. The downside of running such aggressive wing angles is the additional drag they create, which hurts top speed on the straights. And since Mexico features several long straight sections, teams face a difficult balancing act between having enough grip for the corners and maintaining competitive straight-line performance. The reduced air density also causes cooling difficulties for both engines and brakes, forcing teams to enlarge their cooling openings, which unfortunately adds even more drag to the equation. Managing temperatures properly becomes essential to prevent mechanical failures. Looking at which teams should perform best this weekend, the altitude's effects vary depending on each car's design characteristics, and certain teams appear better positioned than others. Red Bull Racing and Max Verstappen must be viewed as the leading contenders heading into this event. The historical data supports this assessment because Verstappen has claimed victory in 5 of the previous 7 Mexican Grand Prix, demonstrating how effectively the Red Bull package functions at this venue. Their aerodynamic design is remarkably efficient, meaning they can produce strong downforce levels without excessive drag penalties, precisely the characteristic needed in Mexico, where balancing grip against straight-line speed becomes so crucial. Verstappen's current form also favors him, as he's taken the checkered flag in 3 of the most recent 4 races. During this run, he's reduced Oscar Piastri's championship advantage to nearly 40 points, giving him significant momentum coming into this weekend. The Red Bull appears well suited to these unusual conditions, and combining Verstappen's historical success here with his present confidence makes him the clear favorite for Sunday's race. McLaren ought to be competitive as well, since they've had the quickest car throughout most of this season, but their high downforce philosophy could actually become a disadvantage in Mexico's thin atmosphere. The McLaren produces substantial downforce at typical circuits, but this comes paired with considerable drag. And when you're already dealing with reduced air density, that drag penalty grows more costly. Both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri possess the ability to reach the podium, and McLaren will certainly aim to fight Verstappen for the victory, though actually defeating Red Bull across the full race distance might prove challenging. Piastri particularly needs a strong result after managing only 5th place in Austin, whereas Norris appears in stronger form and represents McLaren's best opportunity to challenge Verstappen. Given that just 14 points separate the 2 McLaren teammates in the standings, the team faces a delicate situation in managing both drivers. Mercedes has shown recent improvement. They should be contending for spots in the top 5 or 6. And should either McLaren or Red Bull encounter difficulties, Mercedes could potentially grab a podium position. Russell has demonstrated particularly impressive qualifying speed lately,
because we've seen Piastri crash in Baku, struggle in Singapore, after contact with Norris on the first lap, and finish behind his teammate in Monza as well. 4 races in a row where his championship lead has been getting smaller, and Verstappen has closed the gap from 104 points behind after Zandvoort to just 40 points. Now, there's been talk in the paddock that McLaren's decision to stop bringing upgrades to the car might be affecting Piastri more than it's affecting Norris, with some people suggesting that the lack of development suits Norris' driving style better. Whether that's actually true is hard to say without being inside the team, but what's obvious is that Piastri's confidence has taken a hit, and once a driver starts doubting themselves, it becomes really difficult to turn things around.